Uh, but hey, thanks for joining us, everybody, for Buyers Club Live this week. Good to see so many people. Henry Washington, how are you doing today, my friend?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Where in the world are you? Where are you speaking to us from?
I live in Northwest Arkansas, so I'm at my office here in Northwest Arkansas.
Nice, nice, awesome. Well, what we're gonna do today, guys, is we're just Henry and I are just gonna have a conversation for like 20 minutes or so, and then we're just gonna open it to questions, and we're just gonna take it wherever it goes. So there's no agenda here, so feel free. You can help us make the agenda. So and feel free to ask Henry questions directly yourself. So I'm just gonna chat with him a little bit, so everybody kind of knows who Henry is and stuff, but. Um, you know, write down your questions or throw something in the chat. So when we get to the Q&A, just jump in. So Henry, how long have you been a real estate investor?
Oh, bought my first house in late 2017, so not that long. What's that? 6 years, six and a half
Yeah.
years, something like that. 7 years.
Well,
I don't know.
nice. That
Yep.
isn't that long.
Nope.
Congratulations. So,
Thank you.
what's your business look like today? What do? You wholesale, rehab, rentals,
Yeah.
all the above?
Yeah, man. My business model's the same now as it was when I first got started. I operate my business like a wholesaler, so that means I focus heavily on marketing and generating leads. I analyze everything. I make offers on most everything. I buy everything that's a deal, and then I sell the ones that I don't want. And so we hold a lot in rental properties. Probably got like 120 some odd rental properties right now. And then we flip maybe 10 to 15 houses a year. I do not wholesale. I don't I don't have that. Well, I may assign a contract every once in a blue moon, but it is very, very rare. I don't think I did one all of 2023. Um,
Why don't you wholesale much? That surprises me a little bit with the amount of marketing and stuff you're doing.
yeah, it's a little gray in Arkansas in terms of what's legal and what's not. And I have the ability and means to close on pretty much anything that I want. And so I just don't mess with it. I just close on it and then I'll dispo it. I'll either wholetail it or sell it to another investor. So I don't make as much money that way because obviously there's fees and things associated with it, but it's just how I prefer to do it.
Oh, that makes sense. So you're not rehabbing everything.
Yep.
You just close on it and then that makes a lot of sense. Do you throw them
Yep.
into MLS a lot, just as
Sometimes,
is?
yeah. Sometimes we do for sure.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. So
Well,
you
first and
built a pretty sizable rental portfolio in a pretty short period of time. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, first and foremost, I want to say I apologize, everybody. I really wanted to be there for the meeting last week live, but we had a death in the family. My wife's grandmother passed away, and the funeral was literally the day of when I was supposed to speak, and so I had to be there for the family. So I am glad that I do get to be here and do this with you. Um, my business in terms of how we grow and scaled. So I'll just kind of tell the story and then you can pick some lessons out of that. So real estate wasn't anything that was on my radar prior to 2017. I didn't know that normal people bought real estate as investments. I just thought rich people and businesses all bought real estate. I didn't know how accessible it was to the everyday person. And um, a series of things started to happen in 2016 that started to open my eyes to the fact that even though I was making good money, I actually didn't have any money. One of those things was that every time I made money, and so my job would pay me a paycheck, I was really, really good at finding a way to spend all of that very quickly. So it doesn't matter how much money you make. If you spend more than that, then you don't have any dollars. In fact, you have negative dollars. And so I was really good at accumulating negative dollars. And as a single male, that is okay. That's a decision you make, right? If I want to spend all my money and then use credit cards, that is a poor financial decision that only impacts myself. But when you get married, what you learn is that those poor financial decisions now don't just impact you, but they impact the person that you're married to. And so we tried to buy a house together after we got married, and the lender politely called me one day and said, Henry, if you want your wife to be able to buy a house, you cannot be on the loan. You are going to hurt her chances at home ownership. It really happened. And so it was kind of a big slap in the face, punch in the gut that made me realize that like I've got to change some things with the way that I handle money. Um, and I hadn't been properly preparing myself. The next wake up call um, came um, when we were having a conversation about our future. My wife and I, new wife at the time, about how we were going to do the things we wanted to do. The young married couple conversation. How many kids do you want to have, and what's your dream house look like, and where do you like to go on vacations? And I was just like doing the math on my fingers and toes, and I'm like, I can't afford any of the things that she wants to do. And so I was like, I got to figure something out. Literally had a panic attack at 3 in the morning and Googled, woke up at 3 in the morning freaking out about money. And so I started to Google, how can I make some extra money? And that's when I found out about bigger pockets and how normal people just buy real estate. And I just thought to myself, if all of these people have figured out how to do this and it's changed their lives, like there's no way that I can't do this. Like they're no smarter than me. I'm no smarter than them. Like I got to be able to figure out how to do this. And I just has always had interest in real estate on the retail side. Like I loved looking at houses and I was like, this just seems like a perfect fit. And so I made a decision at 3 in the morning that I was going to figure out how to be a successful real estate investor. Like literally, that's what I said. I'm going to figure out how to be a successful real estate investor. And so I woke up the next morning, talked to a friend of mine who was in real estate and said, help me figure this out. She brought me a box of books. She said, read one of these books. If you read one of these books, I'll help you. And I said, okay. And so I just reached in there and I grabbed the first book that the title looked remotely familiar. I had no clue what any of them were about, but I just grabbed one book. What book did I grab, y'all?
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Absolutely. It's the only one that the title looked familiar. I had no clue what it was going to be about. I literally no clue. Read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then like everybody else here, realized that I had been doing everything in life about money wrong, and so uh, started to make some changes in terms of saving our money instead of spending our money, um, and then I started going to every real estate meetup I could go to, not because like I was like real estate meetups are valuable. I just wanted to be there because people were doing this. And I was like, if I can be around the people that are doing it, then I'll learn something by osmosis. And so I went to every real estate meetup that I could, and I started to build relationships. All this was preparing me for my first deal. So one of the first steps I did, Brian, was I just started telling everybody I was a real estate investor, even though I had no clue how to do it. I didn't know what a deal was, didn't know how I was going to buy it. I had $1,000 in my savings account. That's all I had to be able to afford a down payment of any kind. But I told everyone that would listen that I was a real estate investor. But that's just because I've always been a believer in like in life you get what you give. Like if you want something in this world in this life, go give it. If you go and you give it, you'll get what comes to the people who are in that thing, right? Like I always tell the story. If you, Brian, wanted to get punched in the stomach right now, if your life depended on it and you had to get punched in the stomach so that you didn't die, how would you get someone to punch you in the stomach?
I'd go yelling out in the hall here, say, somebody punched me in the stomach.
Well, they think you were crazy. What's the guaranteed way?
Punch them in the stomach.
There
You're
you
darn
go.
right, Rick. You're darn right. If you want to get punched in the stomach, you go punch somebody in the stomach. I promise you,
I
so they're gonna
gotcha.
punch you right back, right? So, if you want to be a real estate investor, go put out there that that's what you are, and the things that come with that are going to be that if you want something, you just got to put it out there. So that's what I did. And lo and behold, I got a phone call one day, friend of mine, good friend of mine. He said, "Hey, Henry, I heard you're buying houses," and I was like, "Yep." And he said, I got to sell my house, but I got to sell it in 30 days. And I knew his house. He was a friend of mine. I'd been to his house. And I was like, okay, what's going on? He said, look, man, I got to sell it. I need the money. I got to buy this land that somebody at my church is selling, and we're going to use the land for the church. So I got to be able to sell it. The money that I make, I'm going to use to buy this land. So I just need to sell it for 115,000. He was like, I know it's worth like 160, 170. I don't care. Just need to sell it, get this amount of money, go buy this land. But I got to have the money in 30 days. Can you buy my house in 30 days? And you know what I said?
Yes.
Yep. I said, yep, I can. I had no clue how to do that. Zero clue how to do that. So much so that after I said yes, he was like, great, what do we do? And I said, hold on. And I went back to my desk at work and I Googled, how do you buy a house without a real estate agent? And it was like, cool, you need a uh, purchase, you need a contract, purchase and sale agreement. And I was like, great, what's a purchase and sale agreement? Like all typing in Google. And so I found one online, downloaded it, crossed out the names, put our names, and we signed this piece of paper that said I was going to buy his house. And I was like, cool, I got this contract to buy this house, which is a great deal. I know it's a great deal. And I was like, all right, now I need money. Who's got money? Banks. Banks have money. I'll go to a bank. And so I walked into a commercial bank. And the reason I walked into a commercial bank, Brian, was because I was so smart that I just knew commercial banks were the best way to finance real estate deals. Um, that's not true. I walked into that commercial bank because it was the one closest to my office, and I wanted to just go somewhere that I knew I could talk to somebody. And so I walked into this bank with this contract, and I said, "Can someone help me buy this house?" And I'll never forget the guy in the lobby just happened to be the commercial loan officer. I didn't know the difference between a commercial loan officer and a regular loan officer. No, I knew none of these things. He just happened to be who that was. He took my contract. He sat me down in his office. He looked it up on Google, and he was like, "Hey, man, this house is worth a whole lot more than this." And I was like, yeah, I know. That's why I want to buy it. And he was like, well, man, we'd love to lend to you on it. You just need a 20% down payment. So that's about 20 grand. Do you have 20 grand? And I said, yep, I sure do. I did not, but I wasn't going to tell him that. And so I went back to my network of lenders. Sorry, I went back to my network of investors who I had been building relationships with in these meetings. And I said, how the heck do you guys find this money for these deals? I know you can't be putting 20% of your own money down every time. That just doesn't math. Like you wouldn't be able to do as many deals as you're doing. How are you doing it? And they sat down and brainstormed all these ideas with me. Long story short, we landed on the idea of borrowing it from a 401k. So you can borrow against your 401k. I can go into the details of that later if anybody wants to know how to do it. But you essentially are taking a loan from yourself. You're paying it back to yourself with interest. It's a really cool way to get access to capital. And I was like, great, I'll do that. I just need a 401k because I didn't have one. And so I went to my wife, who has been by my side from day one with all this crazy journey. And I said, hey, remember when I said we were going to be real estate investors? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, cool. Well, we need to borrow 20 grand from your 401k so that we can buy this rental property. And she said, yes, instantly. 2 weeks later, we had the money. We bought the house. We rented it out. We raised the rents on it, sorry. And it started to cash flow, pay back the 401k loan, pay us. And then the bank called me and gave me a line of credit on the equity for that deal because the bank was like, this is a great deal. Bring us more of these because this is a very low risk investment for us. So we'll give you this line of credit. Use the line of credit that we give you as your down payments for the future deals you bring us and bring us more deals. And so that was a very long-winded way of telling a story about how I scaled brand because that's what caused me to scale is realizing that small local banks essentially wanted to fund my real estate deals. They were willing to fund them at 100% by letting me use a line of credit as my down payment because I was bringing them such great deals. And so, if you want to scale any business, any real estate business, the two problems you have to be able to solve for are deal flow and money flow. If you have a consistent flow of leads coming in that are potentially deals you can buy at a discount, and you have money that isn't money in your personal bank account that you know you can use to buy those properties, everybody here will grow their business at whatever pace they're comfortable, right? I'm not saying everybody here needs 100 doors, but let's say, who was that was talking when I got in here that was looking at a deal? Turn this camera off. I can't see him. Um, uh,
Nick?
was
Who's
it Nick?
Yeah.
Nick, right, Nick. So if I called you tomorrow and said, "Hey, I got a seller," you're in St. Louis, right? So if
Yep.
I so if I called you tomorrow and said, "Hey, I got a landlord in St. Louis. She's going to sell off her portfolio. She's selling 5 single-family homes. She's going to sell them with the tenants in it. She's going to sell them at a 40% discount, so you're going to get them 60 cents on the dollar." Now I have a private money lender who's going to fund these deals because they love lending in St. Louis market. They're going to fund these deals at about 95%. So you just have to bring a 5% down payment. They're in great shape. How many of those houses would you buy?
All of them.
You'd buy every last one of them, right? So if you can solve for deal flow and you can solve for money flow, you'll grow your business at your pace. And what I learned through working with that small bank was I had solved for money flow. I had a bank who was going to fund 100% as long as I could use that line of credit as the down payment. So I just had to solve for deal flow. So that's when I started operating my business like a wholesaler to generate the leads. And then everything that was a good deal, I would just buy because I had a bank willing to fund it. And I started to go build relationships with other local banks and get similar setups so that I could just fund my deals with very little money out of my pocket and then sell everything that I didn't want.
Awesome. That's an awesome story, Henry. Got a lot of takeaways there, but I kind of want to just keep going. You talk about deal flow. Everybody's always curious about deal flow. What are you doing to create deal flow?
I have super secret sauce that nobody else knows about and it generates all these leads that no one is aware of. And then that's how I do the same thing everybody else does, Brian. It's all the cool part about real estate is it's not new. Brian, like the things that I do to generate leads and the things that I do to build my real estate business, I didn't make up any of them. I just learned them and got good at them. But what's super cool about that is that whatever marketing strategy you guys decide to go with, um, I can guarantee you one thing, it probably works. It probably worked before you were born, and it will continue to work when you're gone. This is not new. What matters is, are you going to do it consistently enough for it to actually yield the results you're looking for? Are you going to do it long enough? And are you going to fund it appropriately? If you can do any strategy with consistency and do it long enough and fund it properly, it will yield you results. And so, how I find most of my deals right now, Brian, I think the majority of my deals right now are coming from direct mail. We do some pay per click. We do some, I've got billboards running. I've got radio ads running. I've got, um, and then I do a lot. We're doing on-market offers as well. It's a great time to make offers on market deals. We can talk about that as well. It's a pretty unique time for that right now. So we're making offers on market properties. Plus, I turn everybody in my network into a deal finder for me. Like I repeat myself over and over again, so that I'm not the only person looking for deals. I tell everyone what I'm looking for that is in or around other deals, right? So think about it from this perspective. Who is your contractor in contact with? Your contractor's in contact with people who need to do big renovations on properties. Somebody that's getting a renovation bid on a property is going to get a bid and go, I don't want to spend 40 grand. They might be somebody you want to make an offer to. So your contractor should know what you're looking for and how to get that person in touch with you, and then how you're going to incentivize them for them sending you that lead.
Yeah.
Who else in your network of people is consistently around people selling real estate? Who do you think? You know, my favorite one is
Tell
title,
us.
title
Title?
companies, title,
Title, is that what you said?
title companies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Literally every real estate transaction ever goes through a title company. They see every sale. So they're around every seller. So tell your title company what you're looking for. If there is a real estate investor selling off their portfolio because they're retiring, they probably only use one title agent. They probably use the same one every single time. And that title agent now knows that this person's selling off their portfolio. So if you build that relationship with the title company and say, hey, if you've got any landlords looking to sell, give them my number. Tell them to reach out to me. I want to connect with them. I've bought several deals from relationships that have come to me through my title company who said, hey, so and so is an old investor. He's been doing it for years. He's looking to retire, man. I'm going to give you his phone number. Y'all connect. I've been buying. I bought 3 properties from the same guy now, as he's retiring, and he's doing it slowly because he's taking advantage of the tax benefits that come with, as he doesn't want to overdo it in a year and then have to pay all these taxes. So, but now we have this relationship. When he's ready to sell the next one, he texts me. I go look at it. I make him an offer. We put it under contract and we do it again. Title company. If you want an investor-friendly real estate agent, right? Yes, going to meetups is a great place to meet them. The second best place to get investor-friendly real estate agents, title company. They are around every transaction. And so if you ask the best closer in your area, hey, the agent who's always representing investors for deals. Who are those agents? They'll give you their names, call those agents, and talk to them. Now you've got several options for investor-friendly real estate agents that you can use to help bring you deals. Investor-friendly real estate agents don't just have on-market deals, they've got pocket listings. They've got things where sellers have called them and say, hey, I want to sell my house. And they go look at it and they're like, man, it's kind of rough. I don't know if we can do anything for you, but I may know a guy. Boom. They call me. I go look at the house. I make an offer. The seller gets money. The agent gets money. Everybody's happy. But you got to connect. Title companies are such a good connection for you to generate leads, but you got to go have those conversations with your title company. But in terms of other ways we find deals, that's how it is. Networking. Turn everybody in your network into a deal finder and make sure you tell them how you can incentivize them so that they know to send you leads. I'm buying about 20 units. I bought 16 earlier. And I got another 11 under contract. Every single one of those came from my property manager. My property manager manages 1,500 units across 4 states. Why did he send me the deal? Because I stick to my word. I close. I'm hassle free. I don't bother him with a bunch of stuff. I go look at a property and make my offer. I contact my lenders. We get the deal closed. It's less hassle for him. He knows how he's going to get incentivized because all those units stay in his portfolio as properties he gets to manage. He doesn't lose them now that his sellers want to sell. So networking is a great way if you do it properly.
Well said. What I heard in all that, Henry, is real estate's a relationship business. You got to take action and you got to be consistent. And
Absolutely. Relentlessly consistent is what I call it.
I like that. I like that. Um, and are you burring most of your deals? Are you following the burr method or how are you financing them?
I don't see any bigger pockets, other bigger pockets folks here. So I don't do a lot of burr. Now I have done burr and I understand burr. And I think burr is a great strategy, but it's not my favorite strategy. Because when you're burring, you're selling your equity. You're selling it to yourself, but you're selling it. And so if you're refinancing a deal and you're pulling all the cash out, what's happening is 2 things. You're getting a new loan at a higher amount. That new loan at that higher amount is going to hurt your cash flow, right? Because you're not going to make as much cash flow if your loan is at a higher amount. So you're killing your cash flow. And then you're also paying a lot for that money. People think, well, I burred out and I got $30,000 and that's awesome. And I don't have to pay taxes on that. All that's true. You are paying a higher interest for that money though, because when you do a new loan, the interest on that loan is front loaded in the first 7 years. So the majority of your monthly payment for the principal and interest on that property for the first 7 years is mostly interest. So you're paying a lot of interest to have access to that $30,000. What I prefer to do is like a brr, huh, and then I'll get a HELOC at the end. I'll get a HELOC at the end instead of refinancing it. Because if I have that equity, I can then go and say, all right, well, I'll get a line of credit against that equity so that I have access to that money. But I don't actually have to touch it until I need it to go do another deal. And when I do touch it, I'm only paying interest on the amount of money that I use. So if I have a $70,000 line of credit, but I only need 20 grand of it, well, then the interest I'm paying is only on that 20 grand. So I still have access to that money. That's the equity in my property, but I don't kill my cash flow by getting a new loan. And I don't pay a ton of interest for it by front loading my interest on the new amount. And the reason I say I hope nobody from Bigger Pockets is on here is because I am the teacher for the Bigger Pockets Burr Boot Camp, where we teach you all about how to do Burr deals.
I love it. Well, thanks for
I am your burristo.
All right. I like it. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. So you mentioned Bigger Pockets. I think a lot of people are curious. How do you get a gig on Bigger Pockets? How did that come about?
Man, let's say it's positioning, manifestation, and adding value. And so what I mean by that is positioning, right? If you want to do something, you need to put yourself around the people who are doing the thing. And so I had a goal, positioning and manifestation, right? So I had a goal when I first got started, that I wanted to um, own. There we go. That I wanted to be a guest on the Bigger Pockets podcast, and so what I did is I created a vision board, and in my vision board I put a slide on there, a panel on there that was just the picture of the Bigger Pockets podcast tile. I still use that vision board to this day. I save it as the background on my phone. I don't know how many of y'all can see this, but if you look right up here, that's the old Bigger Pockets podcast tile. I put that on there because I wanted to be a guest. And so I went to the Bigger Pockets conference, the very first one they had, and I did something so brilliant, Brian, because I'm so smart. I screwed up, got the dates wrong, and ended up at the conference a whole 24 hours early. So I was there a whole day before it was supposed to start. I just had the dates wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I got a day to kill. And so I was standing in line to get coffee, and there was this really tall guy in front of me in line with a beard. And I was like, oh, I think that's Brandon Turner. And so I just had coffee with Brandon and we talked shop and I told him my story. And at that point, I had about 30 rental properties in my first year and a half. And I was like, man, I know you guys are starting this rookie podcast. If you need like a rookie to come on, I'd love to do that. And he was like, no, man, the 30 doors in your first year and a half, come on our show. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, Brandon. And then after the conference, he called me and said, come on the show. And I did. And that was the second podcast interview I had ever done in my life, was to be a guest on Bigger Pockets. The first podcast interview I did the day before that, and it was one of those podcasts that was just getting started. So like me, the guy who interviewed me, and his mom were the only listeners. Um, but since then, that podcast has kind of blown up, and he's doing fantastic. Um, but what I did was I stayed in contact with the producers and with Brandon and tried to find ways where I could be of service without asking them how I can help them. I would just pay attention to what they're doing, what they're needing, and if there was anything I could do to help or connect people. And so I just throughout the years, I connected Jay Scott with some people in my market who could help him analyze some deals out here that he was looking at. And just anytime I could be of service, I was of service, and I didn't ask for anything in return. And so when Brandon retired, I got a call from the producer who said, "Hey, we got to fill in somebody until we figure out what we're going to do." Since Brandon left, would you mind co-hosting a few episodes? And I was like, of course, anything to help. So I co-hosted a few episodes, and then they asked me to do a few more. And then they said, would you like to come on board and be a permanent host for one of our shows? And I said, well, absolutely, I would. So that's how all that came to be. A little bit of manifestation, a little bit of being of service to people, a little bit of positioning.
There's a lot of good nuggets in there. Thanks for sharing that story. So I understand that you're kind of known for the On the Market podcast. Do you got a view what way the market's going this year? Any thoughts on that?
My crystal ball.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't have any more information than any of you guys have. I'll give you, I mean, I'll tell you my thoughts. So, prior to the Fed announcing that they were planning to lower rates 3 times, my assumption was that at some point rates will come down. Maybe it'll be 6 months, maybe it'll be a year, maybe it'll be 3 years, maybe it'll be 5 years. But we know that real estate is cyclical. And so at some point, those rates come back down. What I was banking on and what I have been banking on is the fact that people think that interest rates are high right now. Like, it doesn't matter if they are or if they're not, people think they are. People also think that real estate prices are high right now, right? Doesn't matter if they are, if they're not. That's how people feel, and they're acting accordingly, right? My personal opinion is that interest rates are not high, right? If you look at interest rates historically, 6 to 7% is pretty normal.
Yeah.
Like in our healthiest real estate markets, interest rates were between 6 and 7%, right? My parents paid like 17% when they bought a house, right? You know, two, what we don't want, like nobody wants 2% interest rates again, like we do in theory. But if we get down to 2% interest rates, that means something terrible is happening in the world. Something crazy is going on that the government feels like they need to pull that lever. Like, I don't want that, right? So interest rates are fairly normal. Um, what else? Prices are high. Prices are high, yes, if you think about it linearly, like in comparison to what they were a year ago, 5 years ago, yeah, they're high. But if you look forward, and now that we know, based on what the Fed said, we don't know because they haven't done it yet, but the Fed has said they're going to lower rates 3 times. And so if they do that and they lower rates 3 times, people feel like the rates are going to be lower. And so that makes them want to get back in the market. I think there was some sort of statistic. It was over like a couple million new people have been pre-qualified since the rates have come down just 3/4 of a point. And so the lower that goes, the more people jump back into the market. We also know that there is an inventory shortage. There are not enough single family homes available for those that want to buy them and those that want to rent them. So you've got limited supply. And so when you get all these new buyers trying to get out there and buy this limited supply, obviously economics says that that's going to drive the price of that asset up. And so we're in this unique, really small window right now where there's still limited competition because most people still think the interest rates are high. So you can get out there and you can buy deals and negotiate great terms, and get deals at a cheaper discount and get deals at a lower price because of you've got the market economics are on your in your favor still. Now, once the Fed drops those rates and the rates start to come down a little more drastically, you don't have that anymore and the price goes up. So I'm trying to take advantage of this small window and buy as much as humanly possible because you're going to get all this market forced appreciation when the rates come down. And so you'll be able to get appreciation on those assets plus cash flow because you may not get a ton of cash flow right now on some of these deals because you may run the numbers and go, man, at a 9 or 8.5% interest rate, I know I'm buying a good deal and I'm getting a lot of equity, but that thing just ain't going to make me no money. You're right. It's not going to make you any money in year one, but it's probably going to make you money in year 2, 3, 4, 5, and on. Right. So I'm buying everything I can. I'm walking into value. I'm not overpaying for anything. I'm not buying anything where I don't have equity on day one. But I may buy something I don't have cash flow on day one because I'm going to refinance that thing when the rates come down. Even if they don't come down this year, they'll come down eventually. I'll get my cash flow later, but I'm going to get my equity and appreciation now.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That was really well said, actually.
Thank you.
Michael Fitzgibbons, I saw you had your hand up. You got a question or anybody? Let's go Michael first, but anybody just jump in after Michael. What you got a question, Michael?
Yeah, thank you. So this is fantastic. Really appreciate it. Great information.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the HELOC rather than the BRRRR. I did go to on a couple of rentals, go to and ask them to do that. They said they had to be first lien on situations like that. I take it that sounds like from what you're saying, the answer is not no. It's I just need to shop and find someone else here locally that will do that. Is that right, Henry?
Good talk, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I tease, but I tell my students this all the time. It, lenders are always going to speak in terms of like, no one can do this. It doesn't mean no one can do this. It just means you can't do this. Every lender, sometimes depending on who they are, have different rules. Their banks want different things, right? Some banks are very focused on, you know, selling mortgages in order to make money. Some are very focused on lending in order to make money. But those that are focused on lending, there may be a bank that's very into large commercial assets like apartment buildings. And there's some banks who are like, I'm very into small multifamily. Like every bank is different. Every reason for what they're looking for is different. Some banks have different strengths than others. Shop around until you find what you need. I have a student who I told them, I was like, you can find banks that will 100% fund your deal without you having to take out a line of credit on something else. It exists. I'll tell you how they structure it. Go call every bank you can think of until you find somebody that'll do it. He took me at my word. He called 85 banks before he found one that said, oh yeah, that's something that we can do. 85 banks. And then he got 100% lending on his next like 5 deals he did with that bank until they cut him off. If I told you there's a bank out there in your local market that'll fund 100% of your real estate deal, but you're going to have to call 85 of them before you find it, what would you guys do?
Call 85.
Start calling 85 banks, right? But we always want to know the result before we start going to do the work. You don't get to know that. I can tell you there are tons of lenders out there that have flexible lending terms. There are tons of lenders out there who'll give you a line of credit on an investment property in second position. Call them all until you find the ones. I'm going to drop a resource for you guys in the chat. ibanknet.com. That's a tool that you can use to find every local bank or every bank in your local market. Just on the right, there'll be a map. Click the map, click the state you're in, and then it'll list every bank. And then you can filter that list by deposits. So that's the amount of deposits those banks have. Sort that list, smallest deposits first, biggest deposits at the bottom, start at the top and start calling.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. David.
Dave, what do you got, man?
Hey guys. Hey Henry, my name's Dave. I'm super new to real estate. I sold my first house last year. I'm actually one of the hard money lenders in one of Brian's companies. So
Nice.
I'm just kind of learning about real estate, and I really enjoyed hearing your story. More so just from like the manifestation point of it. It seems like you kind of knew what you were going after, and you went after and did it. So I thank you for sharing it. I got just a couple of quick questions. So like you mentioned something that like if an owner had say 5 homes and they were getting ready to sell their portfolio, that you could pick something like that up for like a 40% discount. Why would somebody that's kind of getting out of the market want to just sell all 5 homes and give you so much of a discount when it seems like they could just list them? It seems like homes just kind of selling pretty quick because of the limited amount of homes right now. Why would somebody get a discount of that great selling a bulk set like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Somebody want to take a shot at that? No, you guys shy? Everybody's quiet?
They just want out. They want a fast solution, something convenient. Don't want to deal with it. Don't want to find 5 agents or 1 agent, depending upon where the 5 houses are.
Yep.
They just want a quick solution.
Yep. So in that
There's
scenario,
likely some repairs.
absolutely.
Don't
So
want
in
to
that,
bother their tenants.
yeah, exactly. That's a big one. That's a big one. So in that scenario, David, which is a hypothetical situation, but can be very real.
Yeah.
I found that landlords who are wanting to sell off their properties, it's typically something hits them and then they're just ready to be done, right? It's
Okay.
like one day they get a call from a tenant and they realize, "God, I am 70. I am not dealing with this anymore. Like, I just don't want to." And so now they're mentally done. And so they've got a couple of options, right? They can go call an agent, and that agent can come and look at every single property and give them a list of all the things that they need to do to get those things ready to go to market. And then that have to coordinate with their property manager and the tenants to get people in and out of there for showings. And your average days on market right now is somewhere above 30 days on market. And they get in there. They might get 1 or 2 of them under contract, but typically anybody that wants to buy it's going to want to make sure that they take possession of that property and make sure that it's vacant when they get it. And so now the landlord's got to worry about, I got to put out these tenants. How long is it going to take me to put out the tenants? Is some of them on a lease? If they're on a lease, I need to make sure their leases, I got to wait till their lease is up. If they're not on a lease, and I got to give this one 30 days notice, and I got to give this one 30 days notice, but I can't give that one 30 days notice until 2 weeks from now. And so like, there's just a lot that plays into that. Or Henry said he'll just buy them right now at this price and I can be done. That sounds nice.
So to play on that, that all sounds reasonable, and I can see like, if you're going to hustle up a deal, I'm buying wholesale, so I want a discount on all the properties. I've kind of thought about like getting into real estate. You know, I'm on all these calls and learning and whatnot, but it seems like going and buying one house here and another house there and another house there could kind of be a pain in the ass. Wouldn't it be better to find like an apartment building or something that has multiple doors where you could, you know, you're taking a bigger financial risk buying it all, but it seems like it would be better to buy like a place that has 10 doors instead of just trying to find 10 separate houses in 10 different neighborhoods.
Would
Can you
it?
speak on that?
Would it?
I don't know.
What do you want?
Well, I don't know what I want yet because I'm
There we
trying to do
go.
real
That's
estate.
the problem we need to solve, right? So that's the problem we need to solve. I can't answer that question for you, right?
Yeah.
So what I can tell you is that if you're looking at strategy when you're starting out, right? I tell my students, you want to pick the strategy that where your financial goals meet your warm and fuzzies, right?
Okay.
And what I mean by that is you should have a financial goal, right? You're doing this for a reason. You want to make some money. There needs to be some level of goal. Maybe it's an amount of money per month you're trying to get to off passive income. Maybe, whatever that is, you have to decide what that is, right? So once you figure out what that financial goal is, you go, okay, now I want to go shopping for what's the strategy that I want to use to get there? Should I do multifamily? Should I do single family? Should I do storage units? Should I do, mobile home parks, right? And then you want to think about, well, what gives me the warm fuzzies? What makes me want to continue to do this business, right? And so for me, what gives me the warm fuzzies is I love taking care of people, right? And so what I love about what I'm able to do, I like single and small multifamily real estate because of the impact that I can have on the people who own those homes now and who are going to rent those homes later or who are going to buy those homes from me later. It is a much more people-focused type of investment strategy. So like if I go today and look at a house and that seller goes, Henry, I just need to get out from underneath this house, but I cannot move yet. I cannot. I need to be here for another 6 months, but I need the money. So what can we do? I can work out a scenario where I buy that house from that person and allow that person to live in that house for 6 months without having me to pay me anything so that they can take care of whatever it needs to take care of. I still own that asset and then I can take care of that seller. I can take care of people better with this financial strategy. When I start looking at things like apartment buildings are less people focused. It is a very P&L driven, like it's about the numbers, profit and loss. How can I decrease expenses and increase revenue so that this thing makes sense on paper? And I'm just like, that doesn't give me the warm fuzzies. It just doesn't. Yes, it can be more financially beneficial. Yes, it can be less of a headache from that perspective. Yes, you can sometimes own a multifamily with just the same amount of effort it takes to do something single family. I understand all of those things, but it doesn't make me feel good. I can take care of people with single family and small multifamily real estate. It makes me feel good and it helps me hit my financial goals. And so no matter what, I know I'm going to go down this path. It's not going to tire me out. I'm going to enjoy doing it day in and day out, and I can keep it up. Some people are way more focused on the numbers. Some people love, like accountants, they love numbers, right? Accountants should go buy multifamily. It's all about the numbers. It makes them feel good, right? So figure out the thing. Some people, like I have a student who, um, wants to do rent by the room because they want to be able to provide housing to people who are in abusive relationships. Like that makes them feel good. And so they're going to do strategies where they buy a single family and they convert the rooms and then offer housing to people who are coming out of abused relationships. Right. So it's just, what's the thing that makes you feel good? Cross that with the thing that's going to make you money. That's the strategy I'd tell you to pick.
Man, I really appreciate that answer, you know, like being more people focused. I'm in the automotive business. I fix hail damaged cars. So when somebody rolls up in their brand new car and it's got 1,000 hail dents on it, I know that I can fix that for them. And I know that I'm their best option because of my skill level. So it makes me feel good to be able to work on their car, man. So that was probably the best real estate answer I've heard from anybody ever. So I appreciate that.
Thank you,
Henry,
sir.
if I can just ask you just a couple more questions. You mentioned that you do a lot of ads. So You do
Mhm.
newspaper, radio, things like that, mailers. Who
Mhm.
writes your copy? The reason being is because I'm taking the copywriting classes and I'm just kind of interested more on the ad side. I sold my house last year and I decided to sell literally everything I own. So I got on Marketplace, I got on eBay, and I actually sold my house almost exactly how you described. I sold the
Yep.
house and moved out for 6 months.
Yep.
And I became like just a master seller, but it was more so fulfilling a need that people had
Yep.
by selling them my stuff what they wanted. It just gave me the warm and fuzzies.
Yep.
So how do you do your copywriting for
If
these
you,
ads?
if you didn't know anything about paintless dent repair, right? And you wanted to go learn how to do it in the next 30 days, what would you do?
I would go find out the best guy that could find and hire him as a coach to teach him how to do PDR.
Cool. So if you want to do radio ads and have a radio ad that has the best copy, what would you do?
I guess I'd have to go to a radio station and
That's one way. That's one way.
but,
So reach
but
out
I
to your
wouldn't be able to provide
reach out.
service to like if I went to a radio station and said, hey, let me learn how to do copy
They
for
won't
you.
give it to you, but you
Yeah,
can
right.
go to your investment meetups and start asking people who's doing radio ads. And find somebody in your market or outside of your market, get on Bigger Pockets, find somebody that's doing radio ads and ask them what they did for their ad and if it yielded results, and then ask them if you can use it. My
So
radio ad copy came from a guy right in St. Louis.
for real.
Mhm.
Right on.
Good friend of mine who used to run radio ads in St. Louis. And I said, hey, would you mind sharing me your radio ad copy that worked? And he said, yep, here you go. And I said, okay. And I called my radio station and I went down there and we picked a few and I read them.
What do you do for your mailers, like your flyers and things like
Don't
that?
overthink it. Don't overthink it. Keep it simple.
I mean, do you write those personally or do you hire like a
My mail says, hi, my name is Henry. I'd like to buy your house at 123 Main Street. I'll buy it as is. We'll pay cash. We'll close when you want to. Here's my phone number. Here's my website.
I want to sell you my house right now. I don't even have one.
Give it to me. I'll take it.
Hey, I just got just a couple more things for you. So how do you make a vision board on your phone like that? I know this is off topic, but
Canva.
Canva. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. Man, I appreciate it, Henry. I got one more thing. So I was looking on these government sites because I'm all from all my eBay and in Marketplace, and I came across this foreclosure site. So like St. Charles, the market's real hot right now, but all the people on this call, they can't really find deals. So I got on this government website to bump me to this HUDforeclose.com. So I'm looking on here and there's all these, there's about 1,000, I'm sorry, there's about 100 homes for sale. Some of them are lots, some are condos, but some of them are single families. Like there's one right here in O'Fallon, 3-bed, 2-bath, 2 square feet, 144,000, looks like a nice home. Some of these houses are as low as like 10 G's on some of them, you know, the ones that are a little rough.
Mhm.
Can you go on some of these websites and buy these like foreclosed homes? Like there's got to be some sort of hustle behind this.
Yeah, I would tell you, you guys, I tell my students, the easier it is for you to find a deal, the less likely that deal is actually a deal,
Gotcha.
right? So if you just got on your computer, did a little bit of clicking around and found some leads, and you think you're going to get a good deal from it, the chances are you're probably not. Why? Because everybody who wants a good deal is doing what you're doing. And so what you're probably looking at are houses that seasoned investors have already looked at and passed on. So why did a seasoned investor look at it and pass on it? Because if it was a good deal and somebody saw it that was seasoned along, like, because you didn't hit some like website magic hole that nobody else has been through, right? Other people have been there and they didn't buy these assets. So I would look long and hard at something like that you just clicked into randomly and found, because the chance that a more seasoned investor than you already saw this and didn't buy it is pretty high, which means you got to be super, super smart with your diligence and make sure you're not buying something that maybe somebody else saw and passed on. Now, I'm not saying they can't be deals. They probably could be, but just do that with caution. I would focus more, like everybody who's getting into the game, the first thing they want to do is look at a list of pre-foreclosures.
Yeah.
Which means everybody's already seen them. I would tell you to go figure out how to pull your own marketing list and start marketing to your own list. It's a less risky way for you to get into the game because everybody's looking at that pre-foreclosure list, which means
Okay.
either you're going to pay more than what it's saying because everybody's going to bid it up, or there's a problem with it.
I got one more question. And
Dave, I got to get to some other guys, man. I
Go
really
for it.
appreciate you.
I can talk to Henry all day. I'm sorry for
I know
monopolizing
you
time,
can.
brother. I appreciate your time. Thank you for the
Thank you, Dave.
lesson. Yeah, I'm gonna hop on.
Great questions, Dave. I appreciate it. Corey, what do you got, my man?
Hey Henry, how's it going?
Good.
I was just curious more on that HELOC question. So like I understand the Burr method very well, but this intrigued me a little bit, you know, how you said that. So who's the first lien holder on that? And then, you know, what are you doing when you HELOC out? Is that same bank providing that HELOC? Could you provide a bit more information on that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, your HELOC is going to be in second position. Your whoever you got your loan for your property is going to be in first position, and you can go get a HELOC on a property from any bank. So your HELOC doesn't have to come from the same bank who lent on the house to you, right? The equity is the collateral for the HELOC.
Okay, so that you're basically finding a bank that will loan that first. So you're almost taking out a long-term loan
It's a
to
second
begin.
position loan. It-
Well, no, I'm saying the first loan that you're
yeah,
taking
yeah,
out is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It can be. It can be, or it
Okay.
can be a short-term loan. If it's a short, if so, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, let me clarify. So if I buy a property, guys, and I buy it with hard money or
Yes.
private money or something that's not meant to be a long-term loan, you have to refinance. You've got to go refi and pay off that lender. Okay. Now, if you bought a property that you didn't use hard money on, you don't have to refi to pull your money out. You can get a HELOC. And that's what I'm saying I'm doing. Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. That because I use primarily hard money right now, and that so
Yeah.
that I was trying to make
Yes.
it make sense how you did that because I'm like that. I know Brian's not going to let me keep his money for 5 years. So
Yeah. You've got to go refi out your hard money lenders.
all righty, sounds good. Thank you.
So in the
Good
chat,
clarification.
Tyler asked, if you're not worried about cash flow year one, what percentage equity are you looking for? Can you just address that just a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So, said differently, guys, I'm not buying a bad deal that's never going to cash flow. So what I'm looking at is I'm adapting with the market. And so uh, prior to the interest rates going up, would I buy a deal that's not going to get me the cash flow I want? No, because I can get both. 2 years ago, I could get both. I could get cash flow and appreciation every single time. So I'm not going to buy a deal without both. Now the market's a little different, right? And I can still get really good deals. The interest rate sometimes is going to kill that cash flow. And so I'm not buying assets that negatively cash flow by a ton. I'm looking for like what I'll look at is do I want it to cash flow on day one? Absolutely. I want every deal that I buy to cash flow on day one. Now, if I'm running the numbers and I can't get the cash flow to work, I'm still going to look at the other factors that play into this property making me money, right? So I'm going to look at cash flow is just one of the factors. The other one is equity, right? How much equity am I walking into on day one? And can I leverage that equity to go help me buy more deals, right? I'm also going to look at appreciation. Where is this property located? Is it in an appreciating market? How much has it appreciated over the last 5 years? You can literally go pull the data and find out what have properties appreciated for in the last 5 years in that neighborhood. If you're seeing an average of 5 to 10% appreciation every year, do that math, right? And see, is it worth it for you to buy that property? And then I'm going to look at depreciation, right? This is a little different for me than probably some of you here. I need depreciation right now more than I need cash flow because I have income from other sources. I have income from flips, short-term capital gains. I have income from coaching and teaching, self-employment taxes, all these things, right? And so I have the big tax bills that I have to be able to offset. And so when I buy a single family home and I'm looking at, well, this doesn't give me $200 a month cash flow, so I probably shouldn't buy it. But if I look at the other factors and I go, well, it's appreciating 10% every year. It's got $50,000 of equity on day one that I can use to go leverage and buy more property right now. And I can do a cost segregation study and it's going to offset my tax bill by $30,000. To hell with the $200 a month. I got to buy that house. Okay. So that's the things that I'm looking at.
Awesome. Megan, let's go to you, and then we need to wrap it up, guys. So let's go to Megan, then just let Henry wrap it up a little bit. I really appreciate everybody's time. Megan, what you got?
So on the cash flow note, if you're purchasing houses and, let's say you use hard money, refinance, whatever, and you're just breaking even each month, could you potentially see that being a concern, like the more houses, if you have several houses that are just breaking even to where you eventually won't get a lender to lend you to you.
Nope. Nope. A, you'll always be able to find money. B, remember I said I'm always buying value. I never want to buy something that doesn't have more than one exit strategy. And so all these
Right.
properties, yes, if I rent them, maybe they break even, maybe they make me just a little bit of cash flow, but I can also turn that into a short-term rental or a midterm rental if I need to increase that cash flow.
Gotcha.
Third, I can always sell it and make a profit. I'm never going to buy anything I can't get out of.
Makes sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Henry, man, thank you so much. You provided a ton of value today. That was super awesome of you. I really appreciate it. You mentioned students and stuff. Do you got anything that you can share with our audience, how they might be able to work with you in some form or fashion?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I do have a mentorship program. I call it the Closing Table Mastermind. You can see my shirt right here. So if you go to www.cuattheclosingtable.com, I'll write it in the comments. You can apply to join my mentorship program, and we will get somebody in contact with you to talk to you about it and working with us. But yeah, I meet with my mentees every week. We've got people doing deals all over the country. Got some people doing some deals right there in St. Louis. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. But we provide lots of resources. I share a lot of my lenders and lending resources. I share literally everything that I have with my students. It's super fun.
Awesome. And obviously you're on Bigger Pockets. Any other socials that people can follow you on?
Yeah, just on Instagram. You can also just send me a DM on Instagram, guys, at the Henry Washington. Drop that in the chat too. Send me a DM on Instagram and we'll chit chat with you about the program that way too. But this is fun, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully at some point I'll get to come down there and talk to you all in person. But this was super fun. Thank you.
We really appreciate you taking the time today, Henry. It was really well done. You are an awesome teacher. I'm very impressed. So
Thank you very much, Brian. Thank you
thanks
for
for
the
sharing.
opportunity.
All right. Good seeing everybody. We'll see you all next Wednesday at noon.
Take care.